I thought it would be a good idea to talk about the 26,000 years cycle before we continue with the Book of Enoch, because this is the big overview of the human condition. The highest viewpoint you can get is the 26,000 year cycle, because this is the natural cycle of the precession of the equinoxes that takes us through all the stations of the zodiac. Okay, and only after going around the cycle 26,000 years is everything in heavens in the same position it was in the beginning of the cycle. And the Mayans understood this, and they boiled it down to the number 52. 52 is a special number which brings the return. Okay, the return of 52. And so there's a return every cycle 52, 104, and so on. There's a cycle of the return. And so you can see that it's very close to 50 and very close to 100. Now, the planet Pluto goes around the Sun once every 250 years. And this is like the timekeeper of the universe, if you like. It's kind of going boom, 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 you know, every 250 years doing that, 250 years, 250 years, another 250 years, keeping the time of the universe, yeah. And all the other planets are going around in different permutations of ratios, if you like, one against the other. And if you sum it all up together, 52 is its mathematical proportion. And there's a special number 13. 13 is a magical number that is perfect in its multi-dimensional aspects. It's the next dimension, if you like, beyond just normal three-dimensional space. Okay, it's entering into the realms of becoming better and becoming worse, or becoming more male or more female. And the balance between the male and the female is an interesting thing. Now, there's male numbers and female numbers, and we all know that the moon is a female number, and Pluto is obviously a male thing, because Pluto is to do with time. The man lives in time, you know. He built watches. The lady never built a watch or timekeeping. Never did that. The lady is responsible for space. Space. She looks after all the space in the world, the house and everything. She looks after the space, the parks, the gardens. This is her interested in space. Man is interested in time. How long does it take? No, faster, faster, faster. Well, don't bother me now, I'll go to sleep. You know what I mean. And the lady's up and doing it. Cleaning the house. Man, no, let me sleep. The man is like the brain and the woman is the body. And you might say, oh, that's a bit sexist. No, it's not, because women can become more masculine than men are, more masculine. And men can become more effeminate than women are. And they can change places. As we've seen in the world today, there's millions and millions and millions of people who have changed places. And this always happens at the end of the 26,000 year cycle, and also at the end of the 13,000 year cycle. 13,000 year cycle. It's 13, it's a special number. And so 26 is just 2 times 13, and so the 13,000 year cycle is the big one, really. And we don't really know where we are in the cycle. Well, we do actually. The astrologers have picked it. So yeah, the astrologers say, and I suppose I have to respect them because I'm not an astrologer. I'm just a lay person who, same as you lot, we've studied chaos theory, we've studied relativity, we've studied all of the sciences, and we've studied astrology and we've studied numerology, but we're not experts in them. You know, there's people who dedicate their lives to that. And I have a lot of faith in the people who dedicate their lives to any subject, really. And I have to really consider what they say and then make my own judgments from that. And so the astrologers say that we're right now in the turnover, changeover of the 26,000 year cycle. That's what they say, right now. And there's not just one astrology. There's the astrology that we have now, which comes from the Greeks, and before them probably the Egyptians and the Babylonians and so on. And there's the astrology of the Hindu, the Indian astrology, and then there's Chinese astrology. You know, there's 3 kinds of astrology in the world. Because I did tell you in one of the other videos that there's only 3 things in the world, and there's always 3 of them. It's the same with good and evil. There's the good and there's the evil, and then there's the perfect in between. We'll come back to that. The perfect don't judge that there's good and evil. Don't say that's bad and that's good. They say everything is perfect and it's all happening automatically. And if you run with it and just be perfect in yourself, it will pass you by. No harm will come to you. That's the law of the universe. And the 26,000 year cycle is designed to put man through his paces. I have to stop now. This is my knight's, what do you call it, my jousting stick. I used to joust with my wife, but I don't joust with her anymore for some reason, I don't know why. Somehow we must have learnt this lesson. Now, she was phoning me to tell me that she's on her way, but I also said whilst I was on the phone I was talking about what I'd just been saying on the video, because it all comes new to me. I don't know what I'm going to say when I make these videos, and it's remarkable to me. That's the first time I heard that teaching about the perfect in the middle of everything. And she said what came out of her, because she's kind of like the loving principle, the receptive loving principle in the universe, and she said to me that you can only love the perfect. That's interesting. You can't love the good and the evil. You can't love the good that's fighting the evil. You can't love the evil that's fighting the good. You can only love the perfect, who is looking at everything, realizing that everything is perfect and all happening automatically. That's what you love. And if you're working together with the perfect, there's no disagreement unless somebody gets it wrong, and then you go to left, right, left, right. Now, to get back to the cycle, if you add up all of the difference between, I forgot to tell you something, yeah. Okay, so the 250 year cycle of Pluto is kind of a, it's got 250, 500, and then it's got 500 and 1,000. So all the 1,000 years are really strongly, it's going to 1,000, it's going to 1,000, it's going to 1,500, it's going to 1,500, it's going 2,000, it's going 2,000. Yeah? And so it cannot change that motion. It can't go 2,050, Then it's out with the moon. The moon is going completely different. It's going like 13, 13, 13 in the end. So twice 13 is 26. So that's where the 26,000 years comes in, because at that point, the 26,000 year cycle brings together again the movement of the cycle that's going 1,000 together with the one that's going 52, 52, all that sort of stuff, with the moon. It brings it together with the moon. The 13 comes together with the moon. So it's hard to understand this because I don't think about it much. I've got to go over it in my own mind again as well. And so at the end of 13,000 years, there's 500-year gap between the two cycles, the 500-year gap. Now, it's interesting that there's a 500-year gap between the two great teachers that came 2,000 years ago. One came 2,000 years ago at Bethlehem. One came 2,500 years ago, so 500 years before, under a Bodhi tree in India, wherever it was. And another teacher came in China at the same time. I think that one was called Lao Tzu, but I'm open to correction on that, exactly who that teacher was. But I do know that there's another teacher in China as well. And so there's always three things here. Yet we seem to concentrate on the two here because maybe the third thing is coming, resolves also somehow. I don't know how the third thing resolves. I only know how the two things at the moment, so I can't be expected to know everything all at once. Take things a little bit at a time. Because this is only just coming to recently as I was drawn to look at the 26,000 year cycle. And so there's the teachings of the Buddha and the teachings of the Christ. Now, there's a teaching that comes out of theosophy, the theosophy system, if you like, through Alice Baily, and it's called the Alice Baily and the Externalisation of the Hierarchy, I think is the origin of it. And this is about the avatar of synthesis that comes and integrates the Buddha, the Christ, and the Solar Logos, the sun cycle. And studying the cycle, I realized that there was 500 years between the Buddha coming and the Christ coming, and that meant that we were 500 years, and people say it's the end of the cycle. That is exactly how one would expect the moon and the sun to be different by 500 years. And so the teachings of the Buddha are like a man's teaching, and the teachings of the Christ are like a female teaching. The one is love everybody. Well, it doesn't actually that. It's the same principle that I told you. Is love the perfect. That's what Jesus teaches. Love the perfect. Don't do what you hate. That kind of thing. And the teachings of Buddha are more of a scientific, mathematical thing. Desire leads to suffering, and all that sort of stuff. So, don't desire what you haven't got, or don't desire things to be other than what they are. These are the important teachings of the Buddha. And so, the one represents the solar cycle and the cycle of Pluto, that's the Buddha, and the other one represents the cycle of the moon, and that's the Christ thing. And so, when Jesus of Nazareth came and became the Christ later in his life and delivered the teachings of wisdom that he did 2,000 years ago, the Buddha did the same. These are the highest level avatars on the normal pantheon. They normally come every regularly, a cyclical regularity, yet every 2,000 years they come more strongly than at other times, but they do come more regularly than that, in smaller versions of themselves. Now, as the world becomes more feminine, as the cycle, the Buddha falls behind, and the feminine principle the Christ principle is magnified. And so in this way what happens is it creates a polarity between the sexes, polarity between the sexes. So you have at this time a magnified female sexual, not female sexual, magnified femaleness is magnified, and maleness is its opposite. It's made smaller, maleness. And you can drift to either way. So the males, because of this, the males are tested more. It's more difficult to be male in this time. And so the temptation is to swap sides and become female. And it's the same with on the female side. It's very easy to become male in this time and not retain the female qualities. The lady becomes much more logical, and it's also a false logic, because the lady is not capable of actually looking at the world in the same way as the man is designed for that. Yeah, and so yet it pushes us into these two opposites. And so you'll see at the end of the cyclical time, there's always an effeminacy of the world. And it's necessary to counter this tendency. You can see in the time we live in, there are millions and millions and millions of effeminate men, and billions of millions and billions of masculine women. And this is just the way it's developed in time. And so how does nature resolve those two properties or attributes? What it does is it combines, it's like a leap year. It's like a leap year. It needs to change the cycle that the avatars come in. And so what it does is it puts together in the heavenly sphere, it puts together the Buddha, the Christ, and the new avatar of synthesis is called, and it puts these three components together, and it becomes one. It becomes one, and that one becomes a new teacher of righteousness, new teacher for humanity, and brings a new teaching out that takes mankind to the next level and sets the pattern again. And that happens 2,000 years after the next cycle. That happens at the next cycle. And so the next cycle is corrected, and the new teaching starts 2,000 years after that. Okay, and so the Buddha and the Christ principle then start together at 1 AD again. The cycle starts. Okay, and then they can go, 52, 104. They can diverge again for another 13,000 years, until they come to the next time it happens, and two of those is a complete 26,000 year cycle. Okay, and so the time we're in is very important, and what it does is it polarizes everybody to look at what is really true. Now, as we move into this, we're moving into this right now, and you can see the whole world is polarized between what's good and what is evil, and the people, the gold in the middle, is saying, look guys, that's not right, it's not right to make war, not right to do this, what's going on in the Ukraine is no good, and you can't just fight the Russians all the time, we'll have an atomic war if we don't watch out, and then, give the Chinese a chance, for God's sake, can't we all cooperate? And that's the love of it, to see what's going on, but to know that there's nothing, you can't take the side, you just got to say, see that it's happening and say, well, I'm not going to get involved in that. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And right now, as I make this video, I think I don't know what they call it, the House, is it the Senate, or I don't know who it is, exactly which one, House, whatever it is, in America, has now done 9 times they've tried to vote for a new Speaker of the House. And every time it's failed. Now 9 is a special number, it's 3 times 3. And 3 times 3 is like you're out. And so it remains to be seen who's out. Is it the dark side, or are we going to go into the dark side, or are we going into the light side? Now, the dark side is this guy they're putting up for Speaker, because he's going around with a Ukrainian badge on saying good evil, and the whole of the globalist movement is just dedicated to war. These are terrible, evil warmongers, you understand? Making all these bad weapons, and they're just going to destroy the world in the end, a whole lot of them. And there's 1 or 2 people, 20 people apparently, 20 is the number of the sun, it's interesting, 20 is a good number, 20. There's 20, a group of 20 who will not vote this Speaker in. They keep on saying no, and you've got to give us good reasons why we should do this, and that they're not happy with the status quo, they're not happy the way politics is operating, and the people in politics are just there, they're bought in, and they're just in what's the word, in a conspiracy with other powers to keep them in office and direct the whole process, so this war goes on and on. All this money of the people gets put into warmongering, instead of it being put into the infrastructure and improving everything in America. It's just there to try to destroy the rest of the world, to destroy Russia, to destroy China, to destroy the other cultures in the Middle East, and just make it all theirs, that one hegemony over the whole world. We know that. We're all sitting there on the sidelines watching it. In England we have no representation at all. That if you cannot watch any news channel and get any anti-war sentiment. We're fortunate that in America that there's Fox News, and this man Tucker Carlson is fighting a one-man campaign against the fake media and the evil in this world, okay? And I assure you that Tucker is the gold in the middle, because he's not really taking sides. He's just saying, stop doing it. Tell the truth. And this fight has to go on, because now is the end of it, yeah? And what happens at the end of time is, the prophecy is that it goes out by fire. Now, we've seen that we've had World War I and World War II. Both were very, very terrible use of artillery fire and bombing and that, and poison gas and stuff like that. It's a kind of like Armageddon. If you're involved in all that, that's the end of the world. Yeah, it's the end of the world. And then World War II, we have Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Dresden and all of the destruction of the German cities and that. It was really, really terrible what happened in World War II. It was the Ragnarok of the German people, a Ragnarok of the Japanese people. If you were over there, it would be just the end of the world. And a new world came out of both those places. So in Germany, a new world came into being after Germany. Very nice in Germany after the war. It was rebuilt rather rapidly. Same thing happened in Japan, because the gold, all of this stuff that was warring one against the other, all got destroyed, and the gold was left. Now, this is the same thing that has to happen to these warring factions, and they can't help themselves. If they haven't learned their lesson, God has to make them into combatants, and in that way destroy them. It's never the gold that destroys the evil in the world. The half evil destroys the greater evil. That's what actually happens. So the world is waiting for this new teacher of righteousness. But you know, it's not just one. It's not one teacher. There's a whole group. You know, if you look in the book of Revelation, if you're interested in sort of biblical prophecy and stuff like that, and end times writing of that, then the book of Revelation is probably the most interesting one of all. And it talks about there of the 144,000, the perfect ones, the elect of God, who are going out, they're going through it all. And that is the goal in the middle. And the only way you escape that is by becoming that. And is that nature wants you to become perfect. Now, I'm sure all you lot watching this fall into that category, because otherwise you wouldn't sit through these videos. You'd be gone doing something else. You wouldn't be brought to this channel if you weren't part of this goal in the middle here. And so you have to all become part of this teacher of righteousness, this avatar of synthesis that now brings together both the love energy and the wisdom energy, and creates a new teaching in the world now based on this sort of stuff. And you can see in the past, in recent times, we've had new teachings from Krishnamurti, we've had Sai Baba representing the love principle, we've had Joseph Argilas, who brought us all the Mayan teachings, which is all about time, that's the man's principle. And so we've seen these principles re-emerging and coming, and it's not, the period of time is not an instant, it's not an instant. It happens over a large period of years. It's a 26,000 year cycle. It's not one day in time, it's not 1 year in time. It's many years. And the prophecy of Alice Baily is that it happens in 2023. 2023 is the year of the avatar synthesis and the externalisation of the hierarchy. Okay, so there's a little bit of esoteric stuff in there, but really it's not really about that. It's really about just the understanding how the cycle hangs together, how the error in the female aspect is corrected and then ready for the new cycle, new 13,000 year cycle again to continue. And how that correction mechanism works through the avatar synthesis that brings together the teachings of two separate schools of wisdom. The Christ school and the Buddha school now come together. And it was the same in India. They had the Shiva school and the Krishna. The Krishna and Shiva come in the same way that Buddha and Christ come. And so they have exactly the same thing in the Indian cosmology. And I don't know anything about the Chinese cosmology because it's not my department. That's all. It's not. Although I've studied the I Ching, I don't know a great. You have to live in China, I think, to understand fully the Chinese situation. Just have to let the Chinese sort themselves out. They know what they're doing. We have to trust everything's perfect and happening automatically. And I'll leave you on that note. And I hope you have a really, really good New Year. Don't get involved in the squabble between the dark and the light. Just stay in the middle and enjoy. Because, I forgot to say, in the end, the elect are preserved as a remnant and a new cycle is started and we all carry on again. It's not the end of the world. The world will be in pretty bad shape, yet we'll be able to rebuild it in the same way that we rebuilt Germany and Japan after the war. I hope you enjoy World War III. Thanks for watching. get your mind together and come on across to me? We'll hold hands and we'll watch the sunrise from the bottom of the sea. But first, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? Well, I am. Probably scream and cry at your little world won't let you go. Who in your old measly little world are you trying to prove that you're made out of gold and it can't be so? But first, are you experienced? I'm asking you now. Experienced. Can you get your mind together and come on across to me? We'll watch the sunrise together on the bottom of the sea. But first, are you experienced? Have you ever been experienced? I want you to know